Throughout the ages, humans have depended on nature for sustenance, shelter, and inspiration. Nature is also home to thousands of animals and plant species that create vibrant ecosystems on land and in the sea. Every landscape on Earth is unique and holds its own ecosystems. Just some 50 years ago, children were happily playing outdoors, soaking in the brilliance of the sun. Families were enjoying the beauty and serenity of nature. The air was clear and fresh, wildlife was thriving on land, and our seas were full of vibrant creatures living harmoniously together. The world just isn't the same anymore. We've never experienced temperature as high as 34 degrees regularly here in Malaysia. Floodings and fatal landslides are a common sight. Winter storms are becoming more rampant worldwide. The warmer North Pole has affected the fragile ecosystems there. Droughts are seen in many parts of the world. Massive forest fires in Siberia, North America, Europe, Australia have left a trail of destruction to human properties and not to mention wildlife. For many endangered animals, it is becoming more difficult to survive. This chart shows the global surface air temperature from 1940 to 2023. Temperature has remained almost constant in the first half of the 20th century, and a steady increase of global surface air temperature has been recorded since the 1980s, with the highest temperature ever recorded was last year, 2023.
When oceans get hotter, they expand, so sea levels rise. The heat also melts ice and glaciers sitting on land in places like Greenland and Antarctica, which raises sea levels even further. This rapid change destabilizes the climate. We get flooding, extreme rainfall, extreme storms, a lot of destruction. Other places get extreme drought, which kills crops and causes starvation. We get heat waves, wildfires, water shortage. Basically, bad stuff happening all over the place. Sure, we've always had storms and droughts and stuff from time to time, but global warming makes them more frequent and more extreme.
World population have increased exponentially in the last 50 years, reaching 8 billion people in the end of 2022. This explosive rise in population brings a massive increase in demand for energy, food, and other resources. Here we can see the history data of global primary energy consumption sources. It forms a similar pattern to the world population and Earth's average temperature increase, doesn't it? Notice how the primary source of energy up to the 1900s was biomass. People were burning wood for heat and cooking and other uses. What changed in the mid-18th century?
It's the Middle Ages. People in Britain run out of firewood, start burning coal, but they use up the coal on the ground. Miners dig deep, coal mines fill with water. Samuel Newcomen invents a coal-burning steam engine to pump out water so miners can keep digging. James Watt makes it practical for other uses. Now we have ingredients for the Industrial Revolution, fossil fuels, and a way to put them to work. All hell breaks loose. Coal miners bog down lugging coal. Rails make it easier. Rails and steam engine combined make a railroad. Michael Faraday makes the first electric motor. Nikola Tesla invents alternating current. Soon utility companies start burning coal to generate electricity. Meanwhile, Edwin Drake drills the first rock oil well in Pennsylvania, and Carl Daimler builds an automobile running on petroleum. Coal tar and oil are turned into industrial chemicals and pharmaceuticals that prolong life, more population growth.
Here's another similar looking graph. Atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrogen dioxide, the potent greenhouse gases. Concentration of these gases have also increased rapidly over the 100 years. The burning of fossil fuels to meet energy demand has resulted in the increase of these gases in the atmosphere, causing climate change. So what can we do now? We turn to the second most abundant man-made greenhouse gas in the atmosphere, methane. In 2022, the agricultural sector produced the most amount of anthropogenic or man-made methane globally. This includes crops and livestock farming. Here, we can see the amount of greenhouse gas emissions from the production of 1 kilogram of common food items. Fruits and nuts are of low emissions. Eggs and pork are slightly higher. Chocolates, that's my favorite, and cheese are slightly higher, but all pale in comparison to this food item. This is beef. It is the worst thing that you can eat for the environment. The Global Methane Pledge was launched at COP26 by EU nations and the United States. 155 countries signed the pledge to reduce global methane emissions by at least 30% from 2020 levels by the year 2030.
This year, NASA released a new visualization modeling the sources and transport of methane across our globe. With this new visualization, we can see how methane sources vary by location and season. In India and Southeast Asia, rice cultivation and livestock are two of the driving sources of methane.
We have a climate crisis heading towards us, and we're battling with a very, very complex problem here. There's no magic bullet to this, but we've got to do something. The reduction of methane is the single biggest opportunity to slow climate change right now.
Cows burp and fart. A lot. And it's impacting climate change. Each of Earth's 1.6 billion cows releases about 100 kilograms of methane every year. This might not sound like much, but methane's effect on the climate is 23 times more than carbon dioxide. Methane traps in the heat of the sun and makes the whole planet warmer. So each cow's emissions are about the same as burning 1,000 liters of petrol every year. Cows are mostly responsible for 18% of the total greenhouse gases worldwide. That's more than the entire transportation sector put together. There's good news though. Methane only lasts for about 10 years in the atmosphere, unlike CO2, which can stick around for hundreds of years.
Yes Kabrab is the Associate Dean at UC Davis in the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences. In 2018, he led a study that tested how cows reacted to a certain additive, seaweed. Specifically, red seaweed, which grows naturally in tropical and subtropical ocean regions. Back in 2016, researchers in Australia had found that sprinkling the seaweed on cow feed could potentially reduce methane emissions by over 95%. And in 2021, Kabrab and his team were able to replicate the study in live animals in California.
That completely blew my mind when I saw how effective it was.
The final results found that the seaweed could reduce methane emissions by 82%.
At first, I couldn't believe it because I've never seen anything like that before.
How exactly does the red seaweed, or Asparagopsis taxiformis, reduce methane production in cows?
One of the reasons cows produce so much methane is because their specialized digestive tract. It allows them to digest tough plant material like grass, hay, and other vegetation. Their stomach consists of 4 compartments. The largest one, the rumen, acts sort of as a storage unit where food can sit and ferment. Microbes in this area break down the food using a process called enteric fermentation.
The active metabolite in the seaweed captures one of the carbon molecules and doesn't allow it to form. And then the seaweed acts as a prebiotic and decreases the amount of bacteria that produce methane in the gut, allowing for a prolongated effect.
Research are ongoing around the world with different species of seaweed and cattle, with many of these studies have found improvement in methane emission without significant impact on beef or dairy products. Malaysia should conduct research into this area too. This chart shows Malaysia's methane emissions from the agriculture sector in 2019 as reported to the UNFCCC. As we can see here, enteric fermentation is the second largest contributor after rice cultivation, but combined with manure management, this is a significant contributor of methane pollution. In 2020, there were more than 760,000 cattle in Malaysia. Imagine the carbon emission. Fighting global warming is a long and investment-intensive journey. Reducing methane is the fastest way to address climate change in the short term. The government can play a role in promoting research and development into improving cattle feed with possible local additives to reduce enteric fermentation. We as consumers can play a part in being more aware of our food's contribution to carbon emission and making the right food choices. Meatless Mondays are a good reason to try out that mushroom burger and a vegan diet. It is healthier both for our bodies and the environment.
We are miles from the goals of the Paris Agreement and minutes to midnight for the 1.5 degree limit. But it is not too late. We can, you can prevent planetary crash and burn.